If you've ever looked at a skincare product and seen lots of claims and thought, can I trust these claims? Is it too good to be true? Is this science actually something worthwhile? And been unsure whether it's actually worth buying? This is the video for you. I'm going to go through a skincare product, start to finish, analyzing it as much as I can from scratch, looking at all the claims behind it, looking at the so called science behind it, in order to show you how a professional would do this. And hopefully you can take these principles and apply them to any time you look at buying a skincare product as well. Now, the product which is on screen here, this is something which a friend of mine, Rosalie, sent me. And she said, what do you think of this? Is this something that I should start using? And I had a look through and very briefly, and I'm going to do that for you. So thank you to her for this video idea. And this is a website called OneSkin.co, OneSkin.co. And as you can see, it's a relatively unique looking thing. It says target the root cause of skin aging with the OS-01 peptide. Now, OS-01 peptide. It's interesting that they've used that name because that is something which will not mean anything to most people watching this. And so sometimes marketers take advantage of that. And because it's something you haven't heard of or you don't understand, you kind of look at it in this weird and wonderful way and you think, oh, this might be something really innovative. So if it's something that they've made up to sound complicated, for me, potentially that's a red flag, and we'll see why it may or may not be called that. Potentially for good reasons. Who knows? We'll have a look. So OneSkin. It's the first ingredient scientifically proven to reverse skin's biological age at the molecular level. Really? We will see. Let's see what we've got here. So the product that she actually wanted me to have a look at was this, the face product. So let's start by just analyzing the web page and see what's on there, because I'm going to guess that there is things on here which, is full of marketing tricks that many companies use to make you think that you're buying something special when in fact you're not. We'll start from the bottom, work all the way down. So, topical supplement. So topical means it's applied onto the skin. Supplement, I mean, that's typically used to refer to oral things like oral supplements, like tablets. So topical supplement, it sounds like they're just trying to make the word skincare sound fancy. That for me, why don't you just call it skincare? That's what I think. Then essential moisturizer. I mean, moisturizers aren't essential at all. There's no such thing as an essential moisturizer whatsoever. If they want to define essential in this context, essential moisturizer, fine, go ahead. But I don't see any definition here. And the reason moisturizers aren't essential, biologically speaking, is because our cells create hydration through the form of things like hyaluronic acid, which can, through solvation shells and hydrate shells, actually create an element of hydration to the immediate vicinity. However, our cells know how to do that based on the ability to transcribe portions of the DNA, which code for proteins and modified proteins. And so it's not essential to put hydration in there because we produce it ourselves, okay? That's why there are such things as essential amino acids, because we can't produce those amino acids ourselves. There are such things as essential fatty acids, which we can't produce ourselves. But there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates, because we can produce carbohydrates from fats and amino acids if we really needed to. And so, we talk about essential nutrients, even carbs aren't part of those for our diet. So essential moisturizer, there's no such thing as an essential moisturizer, because creating hydration, which is what a moisturizer is for, is inherent within us as human beings, as part of our DNA. So that, again, for me, that's a red flag, and it just sounds like a company that is trying to use fancy words to pull the wool over people's eyes. Yeah, I don't trust that at all. The first skin longevity treatment scientifically proven to target the root cause of skin aging, so skin feels healthier and looks younger. Okay, interesting. So the root cause of skin aging. Now, the root cause of aging is a real thing, okay? That's something that happens within the cell. When we look at gray hair and wrinkles and all these things, that's not aging, that's the symptom of aging. and the aging process occurs around the DNA level, around the mitochondrial level. Mitochondrial dysfunction is one of you can, if you wanted, you could actually define that as aging in a sense, as well as loss of quality and information in the DNA. So the root cause of skin aging to me, it doesn't really mean anything, because the root cause of aging in general is the same as the root cause of skin aging, liver aging, heart aging, etc., because it's all the same thing in different contexts. So this is, for me, it's a little bit of a dodgy statement. So skin feels healthier and looks younger. Well, if you're targeting aging, it shouldn't just feel healthier and look younger. It should be healthier and look younger. So why are they not claiming for it to be healthier and younger? Why are they claiming it to feel healthier and just look younger? If it's truly treating aging, then it absolutely is, in a non-chronological context, in a subcellular context, it is healthier and it is younger, not just something that feels that way or looks that way. So I don't like this already, just from this small section here. Formulated as a daily moisturizer with our proprietary OS-01 peptide for areas of your skin most exposed to environmental damage. Okay, so daily moisturizer. I never use a moisturizer and I never have dry skin. Okay, so most of my patients that I treat eventually end up not using a moisturizer at all, and they never have dry skin. Going back to what I said about the cells knowing how to make their own hydration. You don't have to tell them how to do it. You just have to make sure they're fueled properly to be able to do the things they need to do. So proprietary OS-01 peptide. So proprietary basically just means they're not releasing the details of this, as far as I'm aware anyway. So that is, again, something that is designed to try and create this aura of exclusivity, because it makes it feel special. It makes it feel unique. Lots of things are proprietary, but it doesn't mean they're good. Lots of hedge funds have proprietary methods of trading financial markets. It doesn't mean they're more profitable than other hedge funds, okay? So just bear that in mind. Lots of protein powders have proprietary blends in them. Doesn't mean they're actually any good for you. Two of the best protein powders for me are NutraBio and Transparent Labs. And there's nothing proprietary in them. They're very, very transparent, and yet they're some of the best out there. So proprietary, I think, is designed to make you think that this is something really special. Just because it's proprietary doesn't mean it's special. OS-01 peptide, that's probably just a name that is shorter than the full chemical nomenclature. Areas of your skin that are most exposed to environmental damage, blah, 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 yes. Due to natural oils used in our formulas, the scent of the product may vary. Fine, I'm guessing they haven't used fragrance, which is good. I respect that. I don't think you need fragrance biologically in there. Let's have a look at some of these images. The image section is something which really is a place that is rife for companies to pull the wool over your eyes. And let's see if I feel the same way about this. So let's look at some of these claims. So 96% improved skin evenness, radiance, pores, and firmness. Okay, so for me, that is a prime example of using things to sell products which don't really mean anything. So let's look at what that means. Skin evenness. What does skin evenness mean? Like, have you defined that on here? What are you measuring to define as skin evenness? It's nonsense to me. It doesn't mean anything, because everyone will have their own interpretation of that word. Radiance, how are you defining radiance? What does that actually mean? If it's, this sort of glow, this redness to the skin, that's not necessarily a good thing. If you get punched in the face, you're going to be radiant because you're inflamed and swollen. That doesn't mean you've actually helped your skin. So radiance, I don't trust the use of that word. Evenness, I don't trust the use of that word. Pores, okay, well, how are you measuring that? Are you measuring, just the average size of the pores, perhaps? I don't know. I'd like to know. Firmness, yes, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You can measure that using ketometer devices. 87% reduction of fine lines and wrinkles. Okay, but what is the reduction? We have machines in clinical medicine, like there's something called a Visier by a company called Canfield. CAN field, and it will show you the reduction in wrinkles. Yes, but is it wrinkle depth? Is it wrinkle length? Is it wrinkle numbers? These are all different things. And so the fact that it's not defined there, I am not really trusting of that. Yes, there's a little superscript of 01 in the corner here, and that refers to this study. And I'll get to that in a second. But you have to define this because people will interpret it completely differently. A lot of people in the public will look at that and think that means that portion of the face is now completely smooth. No, that's not what it means. It could mean that it's still wrinkled, but the wrinkle is slightly shallower. Like even if it's 1% shallower, which is not a lot, technically that's a reduction. And so you can claim that it's an 87% reduction. For me, that's a misleading figure because you haven't defined anything. And look for this in any products from any manufacturer that you see. The lack of definition of terms gives them a license for you to misinterpret things as much as you like in such a way that leads you to buy the product. 100% improvement in skin smoothness and overall appearance. So what's that mean then? Does it mean it's 100% smooth, or 100% of patients experience some improvement in smoothness? If it's the latter, okay, fine. How much smoother was it, and how are you measuring the smoothness? Because it might be in the study quoted here in the bottom left, but how many people are going to realistically be able to read that study properly? I don't think that's a lot, but I'm going to try and do that here in this video to show you how to go through these things. Skin smoothness plus overall appearance. I mean, what a generic way of measuring the efficacy of your product. Overall appearance. I mean, if you eat better in your diet, you're going to have an overall appearance improvement. That doesn't mean that it's the diet that did it. It could be that you're also exercising more, and that's improving. So overall appearance, any kind of skincare is probably going to improve overall appearance because any kind of skincare is going to have at least some kind of minor benefit somewhere. So overall appearance, I don't think is a nice way of measuring things. For me, it's not an important way of measuring anything, and yet it's taken quite a significant portion of this, marketing slide here. Let's have a look elsewhere. Before and after images. I mean, these are pretty useless most of the time because everyone's got a before and after image. Everyone's going to show you that there's some kind of improvement. That's not that difficult to do. And if we were to look, let's say, at this section here under the eye, is it really that much better? If anything, you could argue that this before image, it's a little bit lighter and blended with the skin more, whereas here, it's much darker than the skin. Has it made that pigmentation worse? I don't know, but it's a question that's in my head. And I know if you look at this pigmentation here, it's a little bit close to skin in color, and now it's a little bit darker. Like, why would I want that for my skin? Before and after images are really not a good way because no one does them well enough, in my opinion. Let's have a look at the next one. Powered by OS-01, the first peptide proven to reverse skin's biological age by preventing the accumulation of senescent cells. Yeah, senescent cells, that's part of aging, but we'll see. I'm not massively convinced on this. Let's have a look. Induced a significant increase in epidermal thickness of 23%. Okay, epidermal thickness increase, but you can get that from just using standard vitamin A, right? Vitamin A is a generic term. You've got retinol, you've got retinal, you've got retinoic acid. I've done videos on this. You can have a look. Vitamin A, it can act on retinoic acid receptors, and that can allow for stem cell differentiation or keratinocytic differentiation. I'll get there eventually. And that leads to epidermal thickness. You can use a 1 millimeter dermaroller from Amazon, microneedle yourself with no skincare once a week for 6 weeks, and you get, I think, close to a 600% epidermal thickness increase or a skin thickness increase. And that was from the Zvita 2014 study. If I remember in the edit, I'll put it in the link below. But 6 times thickness increase, like that's extraordinary. And this is 23%. With skincare. It's for me, that's just not impressive at all. Let's have a look what else there is. Brand partner, skin safe, trusted choice, designed to benefit all skin types. I mean, lots of things are for all skin types. Vitamin A is all skin types. Vitamin B3 is all skin types. Sun cream is all skin types. That's nothing unique, but it looks nice when you've got 2 badges on a picture instead of 1. Skin safe, trusted choice. Like, what are the criteria to be given this award? Like, what does trusted choice mean? Like, what boxes are they ticking that makes them think this is trustworthy? I don't know. So that means absolutely nothing to me. But again, it's a nice badge to have with a nice poster. Okay, your skin longevity routine. So this is the entire range, I see. So you got a refillable pouch. That's nice. I like that. That's a really good idea. Reusable shell, and you just refill the thing inside. That's a really good. Yeah, blah blah blah. It's just customer. I don't pay any attention to customer reviews because everyone is so different. Like if it works for someone, it might be terrible for someone else. Like you've seen the same product get a great review and a terrible review from people. Like so, I just don't trust the customer reviews. I prefer to look on the science, and that sort of trumps everything for me. Let's go back to this section here. Okay, so good face projects approved. Again, like I don't know what that means. I don't know what their criteria are. Is it the same as this one? Is it different? I'm not bothered about that. I'm not bothered about this. Plastic neutral, fine, but my skin has no concept of plastic neutrality. I'm more interested in the science. No idea what this rabbit thing is. Clinically tested to support the skin microbiome. I mean, lots of things will support the skin microbiome. You know, having good quality, raw milk is probably going to help that as well. I was presenting, for those of you that don't know, I was presenting at the Royal College in London a couple of weeks ago. And there I was speaking about the skin microbiome, and I was speaking alongside some really, really fantastic people. Anton Enright from the University of Cambridge, he did a really great presentation on his understanding of the skin microbiome. It's far better understanding than mine is, than most people's is, because that's all he does all day, every day. And the upshot of his presentation was that we really don't understand the skin microbiome. Like we don't know how to manipulate it, how to support it, like all these things. And, he is doing that at the University of Cambridge. So clinical tested to support the skin microbiome. We don't know what clinical tests are relevant and what supporting the microbiome actually means at this day and age. So I don't trust this either. But it's a nice, set of 5 badges to have on your page from a marketing perspective. Let's see what else. So this is the rest of the range. So far I'm not impressed. And I hope you can see why. The only peptide scientifically proven to reverse skin aging, we've seen that. Switches off senescent cells associated with aging to help skin behave like its younger self. We'll see. I mean, I'll tell you something about senescence. So it is. If you want to think of it as aging, you can think of it as that is the aging process. It's not grey hair and wrinkles, as I said. That's a symptom of aging. Now, if you really want to treat senescence, I've made videos about this in the past. I'm going to go on about it again. Sunekos, Sunekos. Now I'm going to speak factually here, so you don't have to think that I'm biased or I've got an opinion, because I'm not going to give you an opinion. I'm just going to state fact. It is the most powerful anti-aging injectable ever created, because it will literally work on senescence to the point where when you try and induce senescence, one context where you want to do that maximally is chemotherapy in cancer treatments, because you want to kill the cells. Like with Sunekos, it is so powerful that if you inject it into tissue and then subject that tissue to chemotherapy in the form of, say, doxorubicin, the tissue literally resists chemotherapy. Like if you genuinely, this company, if they genuinely think this is going to prevent senescence, why don't they put it in some tissue and then subject the tissue to chemotherapy in the form of doxorubicin? And then let's see the results, if it really, really is anti-aging. Sunekos has that pattern, and the data to prove that is publicly available. You're not relying on my opinion. It's just an absolute matter of fact that it can do that. So I'm not that believing of this statement. Boosts biomarkers of healthy skin, including collagen, hyaluronic acid biosynthesis. Again, that means nothing, right? What a lot of people don't realize is that there's 28 different types of collagen. You have to state which ones you're making. Most products only make type 1 and type 3, which is very easy to make. Like if you punch someone in the face, they're going to make that. If you cut yourself with a fork or a knife, that's going to make type 1 collagen in the form of a scar. Doesn't mean it's good, because you've got scar tissue now. So you have to specify which types of collagen you're making. That I'm not impressed by this at all. Completely unimpressed, in fact. And hyaluronic acid biosynthesis. Yes, fine, but we make hyaluronic acid ourselves anyway, like using HAS 1, 2, and 3 in the skin. Hyaluronic synthase. It means nothing. Like how much more biosynthesis is there compared to baseline physiology? That's what's key. Like it might boost it, but if it does boost it, why don't you give me a figure to say how much more it boosts it by, if you really want to impress me? The fact that you haven't told me the size of the boost could be 1% more. Like why? How would 1% more be impressive? I don't really care about that. So again, I'm not impressed by this. Supports activation of cellular repair pathways. Right, which pathways? Like which enzymes? I'm assuming you're referring to enzymes, enzymatic pathways. Which ones? Like tell me right there. Like otherwise, for me, that's just meaningless. Because lots of things support activation of cellular repair pathways. Caloric restriction is going to do it. Intermittent fasting is going to do it. Reducing the portion of your diet which is inflammatory, that's going to do it. And that might do it more than this product can. So you need to tell me how much. Like again, I'm not impressed at all by that. Let's have a look. How to use. That's by the by. 95.5% of participants saw improved skin evenness, radiance, pores, and firmness. Okay, well, again, like what does evenness mean? What does radiance mean? Pores, how are you measuring that? Is it with a Visier? Firmness, as I said, pretty self-explanatory. These are the same stats as before. We've looked at this. Participants' skin barrier function improved by an average of 15%. Shown in a 12-week study with 22 participants. I mean, 22 participants, that's it's not that impressive. Imagine there was a cancer treatment that was brought out nationally or internationally and then we tested it on 22 people. Like, would you trust that? Imagine the COVID vaccines that had been done on 22 people. Would you trust that if you were someone that got the vaccine? That's laughable. And you know what? Skin barrier function improvement. If you go to The Ordinary and buy the squalane oil, 100% plant-based squalane oil, and you just apply that on your face, like a few drops in the morning, a few drops in the evening, I would hazard a guess that in that same 12 weeks, you'll get an even higher barrier function improvement, but more than 15%. Just try it. It's like £6 or £8, maybe $10. And my bet would be that you would improve your barrier function by more than 15% for a fraction of the price. This is laughable for me. I'm just not that impressed. And before, after, it's just it's not a lot going on. Like it's slightly better, but like I would barely notice that unless I took a photo, and even in the photo, it's not that obvious. Um, yeah, I mean, look at the top here, right? Look at the creasing of the skin. Is the skin being contracted slightly here? I don't know. And then relaxed here on this side? I don't know. But I've got those questions, right? And that's just not impressive for me in the slightest. If you look at before and afters of tretinoin as an example, right, or differin or some kind of strong vitamin A, I would hazard a guess again that you would get a better result than this, frankly. Let's have a look. And these are all just reviews. Okay, so I've also managed to get a hold of the paper. This is one of the details on the left here, as you can see. It's called Double-Blind Vehicle-Controlled Skin Clinical Investigation of Peptide OS-01 for Skin Rejuvenation. It's published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology, which is actually a pretty decent journal. It's a relatively respectable journal. I'm surprised they managed to get it in here. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean the paper is any good or the data is any good. So let's see what's going on here. The URL, I think you might be able to see in the camera in the top, depending on the way I edit this. So that's what it's called. These are the authors. Straight away, I'm looking at this left section here. So correspondence, like this is quite a giveaway in some papers, right? You look at the email and it says alessandra@oneskin.co. And that makes sense. Like that's probably this Alessandra here, Alessandra Zanari. But look at the email URL at oneskin.co. So, I mean, companies do have to do trials, and sometimes the first one is their own. That's fine. Like I'm not going to take that away from them. But this study, which we'll read it in a second, but if it's going to say this product is great and it was made by the company itself, then clearly there's a source of bias. Like if you're going to financially profit from a product being sold, and your study says that you should buy this product, like just use common sense. Like how much can you take from that? I don't know, because even if a company does it themselves, but the methodology is rigorous and completely bias free, then fine. You can still listen to that and it genuinely is worth buying. But you've no idea. So, but it's a red flag. It's a question mark before I've even read the paper that it was done by the company. Like I'm looking at this in a different light than it was if it was a third party independent test straight away. So, introduction, they're trying to measure senescence using the xenotherapeutic peptide OS-01, aka PEP14. I'm guessing that means peptide 14 on skin. 12-week split face. So split face, so half the face received, one product and half the face received another. Double blinded, so that means that the patients didn't know which one was which, and the viewers, sorry, the assessors didn't know which one was which. Vehicle controlled. Okay, so that means one side of the face probably got an active ingredient and the other side didn't. 22 people. Okay, fine. I'll be fair for a second. I may have been a bit harsh. 22 people. Yes, it's not a lot at all, but I guess this is probably the first study, and you've always got to start somewhere. But even then, I probably wouldn't use the starting study as the one to sell the product with just 22 people. I would do a study, let's say with 22 people. If I had a good result, then I would expand it to really prove it beyond reasonable doubt. I would then go to maybe 100 people if I could, something along those lines, or multiple studies of 50 people, something like that. So OS-01 applied to one side, other side received control, lacking the peptide. Yeah, fine. So exactly what I thought. So one side has the active ingredient, the other side doesn't. And then they assessed instrumental measurements, expert clinical grading. Okay, this is something you've got to understand. Instrumental measurements are fantastic. Like I credit the company for doing that. That is basically objective measurements, numbers. So there's no opinion involved. Like even if the company measured it or someone else measured it, bias-free, with bias, it's still going to give you the same answer. So that's objective instrumental measurements. Expert clinical grading. I mean, it might as well just be random person grading, frankly, because what you're doing is just visually assessing things. Does it look better? Does it look worse? So that's subjective. And if the rest of these researchers here work for the same company or they're being funded by the same company, that expert grading may as well be called bias grading or potentially biased grading. So I would completely ignore that if it was me. And again, subjective questionnaires, like subjectivity is useless in this, because you can give a patient a placebo, i.e. lacking the active ingredient, and they might think it's the active ingredient, so they grade it better. That doesn't mean the active ingredient actually works. Like subjective questionnaires for me are one of the least, if not the least, sort of important way of measuring something, or at least useful. Whereas something like factually measuring things like instruments, histology slides, so you take a small biopsy, you put it under the microscope, you look for the actual collagen fibers, elastin fibers, all these new things. And then again, that's objective and factual. So the results show, we'll look through the results in a second. I don't want to read the summary, because this, when you get a paper and you get this, don't know why I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see my hand, but when you get this section on the front, a lot of people will just read this. But actually, this conclusion section is based on all the methodology. So you have to analyze the methodology to see if there's any flaws in it, because if there is, then the conclusion is flawed as well. So I'm not going to look at the results here. I'm actually going to look at the raw data. Conclusions, what are they concluding anyway? That it suggests the formulation promotes skin health by strengthening skin barrier, protecting against dehydration, reducing appearance of wrinkles, improving texture and radiance. I will be amazed if they define radiance here. The effects are likely attributed to the xenotherapeutic properties of OS-01, reducing cellular senescence and associated detrimental effects. Really, let's have a little look here. So if you're not English speaking, I know I spoke very quickly there, but you can read it yourself if you like. So study overview. So generally in the introduction, that's basically them showing like why they've done this study. What made you want to do this? Now, at the end of the day, they're doing it because they want to make money. They're selling a product. That's all I need to know in this particular study. 12-week, double-blinded, split face. Yes, we've said that already. Evaluated performance of OS-01 formulation versus vehicle formulation. Ink list of each formula is presented. So they're giving a full formula. So they applied the peptide-containing formula on the left and control formula on the right. The side of the face that received each treatment was withheld from participants. Good. That's the double-blind nature and researchers to ensure a double-blinded study regarding peptide treatment. Blah, blah, blah. Applicable government regulations. Okay. Subjects who met the inclusion criteria were instructed to use a complete formulation on one half of the face twice a day for 12 weeks, while the other half did not get the active ingredient, it seems, but it was treated with an identical formulation lacking the OS-01. They used a cleanser, the Cetaphil Gentle Cleanser, sunscreen, Neutrogena oil-free moisturizer, SPF 35. So one side received the actual active ingredient product, and the other side just had this cleanser and this moisturizer. Oh no, wait, the cleanser and the moisturizer were provided for participants to use on both sides, fine. And the other half just didn't have this OS-01 peptide, fine. So efficacy was determined from analysis, instrumental assessments, great, group blinded, expert clinical grading, group blinded, potentially biased, expert clinical grading is more appropriate. And image analysis, I mean, again, it's a bit subjective. Measured at baseline 6 and 12 weeks, and subjective questionnaires, which I think are pretty useless. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at this then. So these are the instruments they use: a vapor meter, a Vizia scanner, like I said, Antera 3D, that's like a 3D scanner. Consumer perception. Okay, questionnaires were used. I don't want to know anything about the questionnaire, frankly. But what did they measure? Skin hydration. In your opinion, in what manner has the tested product improved the following skin parameters? Now, this is completely useless. Like, if you give this to a certain group of patients who have had a bit of skincare, like, they're going to assume it's made an impact. So there's a placebo effect straight away to both sides. So the parameters were skin hydration. Like, you have to define hydration. Some people will think their skin's dry when it's not. So how can you trust this opinion of skin hydration? Skin firmness / elasticity. Sorry, but they're two completely different things. Like, elasticity is the ability to return to its shape. Firmness is a sort of lack of ability to be deformed. They're very different things. Like, do the subjects even understand the difference between those things? Because most people will think they're the same thing. Skin radiance. Okay, if you asked your participants in the study to rank or to grade their opinion on radiance, what did you tell them your definition of radiance was to measure against? I can't see that anywhere. It's such an open-ended descriptor. It just means nothing to me. Skin roughness. Tone and texture are not skin roughness. Like, roughness can be defined as texture. I get it, but tone is like color. How is that anything to do with roughness? Eye bags. I mean, do most people know what an eye bag is? Like, are they aware of the anatomical formation of pseudotosis or pseudoherniation of the suborbicularis oculi fat pad? Like, that's really what an eye bag is, and it can come from things like the bony atrophy of the orbital floor, this of the orbital rim. This that will mean something different to each person, frankly. Some people have eye bags and actually have hollows, not excess volume. A lightening of hyperpigmentation, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And general appearance. I mean, no, I'm just no. Overall satisfaction was graded 1 to 5, fine. That's pretty poor, because of all the things that I've just said. So I would place no emphasis on that whatsoever. Statistical analysis, fine, everyone's going to be doing that. And the results of 25 patients were recruited, 25 female patients were recruited. Interesting that, in a lot of studies, in general, it's male participants. In skincare, it's female participants. I'm not saying there's anything wrong or right with that, but it's just interesting for me. Throughout the study, 3 mild adverse events were reported, and 2 participants actually discontinued their participation prior to study completion. Okay, this is quite important. So one had bronchitis, which is not related to treatment. Fine, I'm not going to hold that against them. You can't control everything. Another experienced mild dryness and a rash on the cheek that lasted for 26 days, which was likely due to treatment and resolved after discontinuing its use. I mean, that's 1 in 22 people. Like, that's potentially, let's round it to 20 people. Like, that's potentially 5%, or because we're rounding it, between 4 and 5%. That's quite a high incidence rate of dryness and rash on the cheek that lasts for almost a month due to treatment. Like, I mean, are you surprised that this is not written in the first page? And you have to delve into the paper to actually look at this sort of thing. Let's have a look. This participant was also required to discontinue the study. Third participant experienced mild irritation on the cheek for 5 minutes after applying the product. They completed the study. I mean, if you're getting irritation on the cheek, like from applying this product, even if it's only for 5 minutes, I'm sorry, but I don't trust that. Like, why? What is it? What is in it that's causing an irritation for 1 out of 22 people, which is equivalent to 4 to 5%? Assuming my math is correct, which it might not be. Like I'm not impressed by that at all. And then you've got these bits here where they're looking at the statistics. Let's leave that because there are lies, there are damn lies in those statistics. Wrinkle indentation. Okay. They analyze wrinkle appearance as measured by indentation and skin roughness. So they're analyzing wrinkles by how indented the wrinkles are. So the wrinkle depth, I believe, is what they're referring to. Wrinkle indentation, yeah, fine. Fine. Representative images obtained from 2 participants exemplifying the superior beneficial effects of the OS-01 containing formulation in wrinkle appearance are demonstrated. So 2 participants showed superior benefits of OS-01 containing formulation. Why is it that 2 out of 22 showed exemplary superior beneficial effects? Why is it not 22 or 22 if it's really that good? If it's truly treating aging, then it should be universal. Shouldn't be irritating people, shouldn't be giving people a rash in their cheek for a month, and it shouldn't be just 2 people that show really good results. I mean, you've got to, that's only a single sentence, but if you stop and think about it, that means a whole lot, and it's a really important sentence. And I hope you understand why it's so important to actually look into these things and really delve deep into the actual science behind things, because you find that you will have reasons to, or you may have reasons to think that companies are utterly full of stuff that I probably shouldn't say on here. I mean, improvement in skin texture of 5%. I mean, 5% improvement in skin texture. If you just use 7% glycolic acid toner from The Ordinary for the same period of time, you probably get just the same amount of skin texture improvement, if not more. That's really not impressive for me. Skin smoothness presented a similar progressive improvement between baseline. Fine. Skin radiance. We determined the radiance/luminosity aspect of the participant's skin. If someone's inflamed, they're probably going to be more radiant. So it's not that impressive a thing to measure. If you measured that research, that female subject who had a rash on her skin for a month or almost a month, I'm sure they would have a radiant skin, a radiant glow, because it's quite red. Let me just adjust my headphones here. So, that doesn't mean that they're better off for being radiant. So I personally am ignoring radiance. I can make someone radiant by slapping them really hard and just looking at how red they go if we wanted. Okay, let's have a look. Here we go, data. 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Okay, so 6 weeks. So the gray is the vehicle formulation. So it didn't have the active ingredient, the peptide OS-01, and this sort of light green, blue, turquoise color. I'm not going to get into argument on what color that is. Formulation is one with the active ingredient. So percentage of subjects that observed improvement. So, I mean, after 6 weeks, the side without the active ingredient actually observed more skin hydration than with the active ingredient. I mean, so hang on, have I looked at this right? Percentage of subjects that observed improvement. Vehicle formulation in gray, formulation in green. So that does mean that people without the active ingredient had better hydration or better observations of hydration than people that did have the active ingredient. And that basically says don't buy the product or don't use the active ingredient. Same for skin firmness and elasticity, same for skin radiance, whatever that means. Skin roughness improved a bit, but again, I'm sure just a toner will do that. Eye bags, no difference. Lightening of hyperpigmentation, yes, the active ingredient showed some benefit. General appearance. So the people without the active ingredient had a higher amount of observed general appearance improvement than the people with the active ingredient. I mean, why would you even... What? This basically says that you're better off not using OS-01, not using this so-called fancy ingredient they've got. Okay, let's look at 12 weeks. So, wow, skin hydration, no different. Skin firmness, elasticity, no different. Skin radiance, better without the active ingredient. Skin roughness, eye bags, lightening hyperpigmentation, no difference. General appearance, a couple of percent better. Better, higher improvement than without the active ingredient. I mean, do you see now why this is so important to go into these things in detail? Like, and do you see why they don't make it that easy to look at these papers and they use statistics? Do you get it now? Like why they have, let's go back to the website for a second. Do you get why they have images like this with random percentages of undefined terms underneath and just a reference to a study without showing you the raw data in the study? Because if you go into a study like this, it says that after 12 weeks, there was no difference in a lot of metrics, whether they had the active ingredient or not. Like, this is the exact reason why I'm so cynical all the time of all products that are released. Like, I know some people comment on the video saying I'm very negative on this product or that product, but do you see now why? Like, this won't be unique if I was to do it for another 5 products in a row. Nothing is selling the product for me here at all. They can write what they like, but this is if that's truly the data, unless I'm missing something, this is a complete waste of time for me. Let's have a look at these. Subject 13 and 14. These are the two that showed the exemplary improvement that we said. So if these are like the highest improvement, because I'm guessing they're cherry-picked results, hence why they haven't shown all 22. They've just chosen these two for this section of the paper. So if these are the best results, let's have a little look. So vehicle. So the bottom row, vehicle formulation, OS-01 formulation. Okay, fine. So this is what they started with. And then this is after 12 weeks for going from left to right. So at baseline, yeah, there's not that much difference between the vehicle formulation because there's no active ingredient. But I mean, looking at this image, there's not that much difference from using the active ingredient either. In fact, they look exactly the same at baseline, then they do it 12 weeks. It's just the lighting that's slightly different. That's just a shadow. And then there's light there. Oh, jeez. You know what? Let's the texture is slightly better. But you know what? This fold here, whatever that is, I can't see it here. So has the camera moved down slightly? I don't know. It's honestly not that impressive. Like I'm not impressed. I mean, the texture here. So this side didn't have the active ingredient vehicle formulation from start here to 12 weeks. You can see all sorts of texture here, and it's slightly shallower potentially in texture. So, and look at this, right? Look at this deep texture here. Baseline, no active ingredient on this side, and yet it's still improved without the active ingredient. So, how much use is the active ingredient if even without it, you're getting an improvement like this? Not that useful, is my understanding. Fine. This is subject 13 and 14 there, 13 and 15 here. So subject 13 clearly is their poster child. So let's have a look again. Vehicle formulation, and then OS-01 formulation here. So this picture here is the start, and this is after 12 weeks with the active ingredient. It looks basically the same to me. Look at this pigmentation here. One of the things I measured was hyperpigmentation. That's exactly the same. And this bit here, whatever that is, that's exactly the same. Look at the depth of this line, that line, that's basically the same. Like, if you're going to argue that line is shallower than this, then you have to argue with a photo with very high clarity. The fact that you have to do that means clearly not an obvious change. What else? I'm trying to be kind here. There's not really anything I can see where it's improved. If you look at this fold here, bit small, but then here it's a bit bigger. So has it made that fold worse? Has it made the skin more wrinkly? I'm not really sure. Let's have a look at subject 15. Again, active ingredient side, start, and then after 12 weeks of it. Like, what is the difference? If anything, this section here on the skin is a bit red, and it didn't start out as red. So has it made the skin worse? Look at this section here, and then this section here. This is probably a little bit deeper in wrinkles than that one. So what have you actually done? This pigmentation here is still here. I don't think that's done anything. Like, I'm sorry, but this has done nothing. Why would anyone want to buy this? And then you just got all this stuff. Conflict of interest statement, yes. Named as inventors of a patent directed at this invention, which is solely owned by OneSkin. So a lot of the authors came up with the patent for this together. So obviously it's in their best interest to make this product look as good as possible. And yet, even when they do that, the skin looks exactly the same at the start and at the end, which is embarrassing. And these authors are co-founders of the company. Fine, so that's just telling me there's a source of bias here. But even with a source of bias, like, this just looks the same to me. What are we doing here? Apart from wasting time. Like, there's nothing on this page has impressed me. I think there's undefined terms. I think there's marketing, nonsense on there. I don't think there's anything really happening in that picture. For me, a lot of this stuff is meaningless. And then when we look at this paper, there's nothing there. I mean, I'm looking at that and thinking, how does that prove anything for improving these things about the skin? Like nothing. But yeah, so there you have it. That is my take on this product, and I hope that's helped you kind of see how to properly look into scientific papers. I mean, it's not a full depth. It takes years to really be able to understand them fully, but those are some basic techniques and basic things to look for in order to try and work out whether something is worth buying based on trying to see if the science holds up. And the science is in inverted commas because sometimes there isn't any. I mean, for this product, for me, obviously, as you can tell, it's a don't buy, shall we say, as a rating, like Jim Cramer. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you very much.